is Lori Bradner, and I'm one of the hosts of the Florida Aviation Network. And we are broadcasting live and in the clear from the terminal building at Sebring Regional Airport. We are here celebrating 14 years of the U.S. Sport Aviation Expo. I have the best job in the entire world because I get to talk to some of the coolest people. And with me today, I am truly humbled and honored to be here with one of the pioneers of the ultralight, really the ultralight industry and flying, Phil Lockwood. Mr. Lockwood, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for that very nice introduction, Lori.
No, thank you for taking the time. Now, I have to ask you, because you truly are, you're a pioneer in the aviation industry. We're here celebrating flying into the future, and really the future of aviation. I have to ask you, because I've never had a chance to talk to you, what inspired you to fly? What was it? Was there a turning point, something that happened? And how long have you been flying?
Sure. Well, I always enjoyed model airplanes when I was a kid. My dad worked for a pump company as international sales manager, so he traveled overseas. Got to go to the airport from time to time and see him off with my mom.
Okay.
And I always thought that was kind of cool. He'd go far away, come back, and I'd see all the pictures from his trip. So that always was very interesting to me. And then one year we were on vacation in the Adirondack Mountains in upstate New York. I grew up in the Finger Lakes region, and so we'd always vacation in the Adirondacks. Right. And Dad asked my brothers and I, would you like to go for a seaplane ride? And of course, yeah, sure, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Had never done it, never flown in a small plane.
Exactly.
And so a seaplane came in, and some other kids at the camp wanted to go as well. And so I ended up in the front right seat somehow. And,
okay, that was a lucky draw.
It was.
That's awesome.
But it was just a remarkable experience because I loved boats, and I did a lot of boating as a kid anyway.
Right.
So to see as we taxied out and as the plane accelerated, to see him pull the controls, the nose come up, and then look at the floats and see it coming up on the step and planing, and then rotating for liftoff, and then seeing the whole area from the air. There were a lot of shallow spots back then.
Okay.
And they weren't marked. They are now.
Right.
I still go up there with my kids now, right?
Okay.
But they weren't marked, so you either hit them or you were very careful finding them with your boat, or you got to fly in the air. And I could see all the shallow spots on all the lakes. So it was the coolest thing. I'm like, oh, there's that spot, and there's that spot, and you got to go around there, and I just loved it. So I think that was really the first thing that really pulled me into flying.
And then how did you translate that into a career?
Well,
so how did that
in high school, at some point, you have to decide what you want to do.
Yes, you do.
And so I remember in my junior year thinking, I'd like to go into aviation. So I ended up applying to go to a school called Florida Institute of Technology in Melbourne.
Yes.
They had a program that was a technical program, business program, and aviation all together.
Okay.
And looked very interesting to me. So I applied there, was accepted, went there, and that was in 1978, right? So I spent 4 years there and got my Bachelor's of Science in Air Commerce and Flight Technology. So, and of course, while I was there, I got all my ratings. So I started flying, I was 18 when I started flying.
Wow, and been flying ever since.
Been flying ever since, yep.
That is awesome. Now, one thing I want to ask you about is I know that your name is synonymous. When you hear Phil Lockwood, it's Rotex. And I know that you have, when you talk about the Rotex engines and all of that, that you truly, one of the things I was asking, and one of my co-hosts said that you have the premier site, you've got the premier facility. You basically do, and I'm going to, excuse me for the layman's terms, open heart surgery on the Rotex engines, and you are one of the only ones that has that ability to do that. Can you talk to me a little bit about that for those that may not be in aviation or just starting in aviation? Talk to us a little bit about how you got into that and what do you do there?
Sure. Well, when I graduated from college, I wanted to get into aviation, and I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. I knew I was going to do something. I was interested in business and of course, flying. And I ended up my first job was with a ultralight manufacturer called Max Air. They were based in Pennsylvania. And at that time, the ultralight industry was booming, right? It was there were something like 110 manufacturers, and they were being built all over the place in large quantities. And I thought, yeah, this industry looks like there's opportunity here. There's opportunity for professionalism and growth. So I went to work for this company in Pennsylvania, and I quickly realized that most of the accidents were preceded by an unintended loss of engine power. And that the airframes themselves, even though many of them were quite basic, had already progressed to the point where the planes weren't falling out of the sky.
Right.
It was usually engine problems that caused them to come down. And so we found that the best engines at that time were Rotax, and there were many different brands. I got to fly ultralight type airplanes with all different types of engines.
Okay.
But the Rotax ones we quickly realized were the best.
Okay.
And so
in what way? And I apologize.
they were the most reliable. They
okay.
came up with packages with a geared reduction drive, an exhaust system. They modified what were originally snowmobile engines, the two-strokes.
Yes, I was going to say.
They modified them with different porting and timing to give them a flat torque curve and make them appropriate for spinning a propeller.
Okay.
And then they came up with dual electronic ignition, and they really went after that market. And they went from not being in it, where you had many other manufacturers already building engines for ultralights, to dominating it in a very short time. They just had the best engines.
See, I had known it. My father was in snowmobiling, so when you say Rotax, I think snow. I don't think air. So it was. I didn't know how they had gotten into the industry.
Sure, and they made great snowmobile engines as well. But the aircraft engines quickly separated themselves from the snowmobile engines that they originated from, and became more and more sophisticated. And then, as the 80s progressed, sometime later on in the 80s, they decided to develop a new dedicated four-stroke engine.
Okay.
And that was the 9 series, known as the 912.
All right.
So this was probably around 1987, 88, I had been doing work with film crews in Africa and traveling quite a bit. And I decided to go ahead and go out on my own. And I was doing consulting work for these various film crews, and I started a Rotax service center. Again, my interest was, how do I make these engines more reliable? I knew they were the best. So I started the service center up in Lake Wales, Florida.
Really?
In 1989. It was actually building engines in my garage originally, and had my inventory in my garage, and the neighbors started to complain that the trucks were coming every day. So I got a hangar at the airport, an office at the airport. Started expanding there. It wasn't long before I'd outgrown that facility, and I needed more space, and came here to Sebring. And Mike Willingham actually talked me into building my first dedicated facility here, and it just grew from there.
That's amazing. Now let me go back, because during that time, talk to me a little bit about the National Geographic Society, because in addition to the Rotax repair, the Rotax engines, you also then branched out and you designed one of the most intriguing, and I have to tell you, one of the most exciting aircraft to fly in, the AirCam. And I know that excuse me if I say this wrong, is that you also had experience with the Drifter?
Sure.
Is that correct? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
The company that I worked for in the 80s, my first aviation job, that was for Max Air. They built the Drifter. The Drifter was a really good ultralight. Single and two-place versions. It was reliable. The airframe was durable. It was safe. They lasted a long time. They were pretty rugged. And they had good performance, and they offered really good visibility because it was a pusher, like the AirCam. The front seat was right out in the open. So I had worked with film crews in Africa with the Drifter. And
that was in Namibia.
It was in Namibia, in the Namib Desert, right? And it was the Bartlett team, wonderful people, wildlife film photographers, and I had the time of my life working with them. They were so nice. I went over there and helped them out a number of times, sold them the 2 Drifters, helped to teach Jen how to fly the Drifter, And yeah, it was a great time. So they were in Washington, D.C. at the National Geographic headquarters.
Okay.
And they met with a couple of people that were working on a story in the Congo. So Nick Nichols and Dr. Michael Fay were teaming up. Michael Fay, at that time, working with wildlife conservation. And they were trying to find a way to protect a portion of the rainforest in northern Congo. And trying to raise money and awareness of what was, they were about to lose that rainforest through logging.
Wow.
So they came to me and they said, hey, we saw what you did with the Bartletts. The Bartletts said, you're the guy that we should come to. We'd like to get one of these drifters outfitted to fly over the Congo rainforest. So in Namibia, we were flying over desert.
Right.
So single engine drifter in the desert, even though it was a very remote area, if you had an engine problem, you could land almost anywhere.
Right.
We had 2 planes, so we
You
had
open air.
Yeah, the other guy would
Open
come
ground
get you.
anywhere.
It was
Right.
quite safe. These guys wanted to fly over 300-foot high mahogany trees, dense rainforest, no place to land, and no chance of rescue.
Doesn't sound safe to me.
Yeah, so I said, I don't know. It doesn't sound like the best deal. But I have been working on a concept for a twin that would be ideal for that situation. And I showed them some of my drawings, and they said, build the first one for us. And so I said, okay, and that's what happened. I ended up building the first air cam for that mission in the Congo. Crazy, okay, I'm going to build this one off.
Yeah, and fly it in the Congo, what everybody
and
does,
we're
right?
going to fly the 40 hours off and ship it to the Congo and fly. Yeah, right, okay. But that's what we did. We built the first prototype in 6 months. And got it done, got it flying. It worked great. Took it apart, put it in like 7 different crates. I really had to take it apart to ship it over there. Shipped it over there by air, DHL. Flew to the Congo, received it, put it all together, and then ferried it some 350, 400 miles from Brazzaville, the capital of Congo, all the way up to North Congo, and landed in a town called Bamassa, which the local villagers had built a 600-foot one-way in, one-way out strip, where you came in over the Songo River, flows into the Congo River, and you had a swath cut in the trees, and you come in on this little 600-foot strip. And for the air cam, that was easy. So when we landed there, we were the first airplane that had ever landed there, and first airplane the villagers had ever seen up close.
How was that for you?
Was
that amazing?
The whole thing was a great
what a
adventure.
great experience.
Yeah, it was a great adventure. Yeah, it was fantastic. Just getting there, Dr. Michael Fay flew with me from the capital where we had put the plane together up there. And I mean, it was, a civil war had just broken out in Brazzaville. They had an election, and it was crazy. It was very dangerous. The U.S. embassy was abandoned. They told all the Americans to go home, and here I am putting this airplane together, and it's like, what do I do? I said, I'm going to stay. I'm going to get this job done. So it was an exciting time, and we got it up there, and we flew the missions almost military-like.
Wow.
It would take off at sunrise, 6 a.m., fly a 2-hour flight, come down, and then I'd refuel the airplane, get it ready to go. We'd do a reconnaissance flight around midday. And then towards the end of the day, we were right on the equator. So sunrise, sun at 6, sunset at 6, every day, all year round, right?
That's it,
So the last 2 hours and the first 2 hours are where you get your best light. So we would take off at 4 in the afternoon and fly till sunset.
How long did you do that? How long did it take? And I apologize for asking, but it's fascinating.
We flew for about 4 weeks straight, getting all the pictures they wanted. I think I was there on 2 trips, and it was really, we were getting late in the season on that first trip. So it was actually the second trip where we got most of our footage, and I think we flew for about 4 weeks.
That's amazing. And then when you came back to the States, talk to me a little bit again about the progression, because the air cams have taken off. Now, I mean, you see them, and I know that you have them here, and I will tell our viewers and our guests, if they haven't seen one, and certainly if they've not flown in one, it is an experience that it's unlike any flying I've ever done. And you know, I'm just honored to be sitting here with you, having actually flown in one. It's amazing. So where did you go from there?
Well, it's a great fun airplane. I'm glad you
I
enjoyed
love
flying
it.
in it. So when I came back, I thought, yeah, this is pretty cool. I need one of these for myself.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the filming that I'd done, even in the US, you know when you get down low and you've got a cameraman up front, that there are times when if you have an engine failure, you're not going to be able to find a nice place to land.
Right.
You know, they always want to go over the swamp, over the shoreline, over the trees,
Right.
and so I would always be popping up to 1,500, 2,000 feet, and I'd say, I can glide and land there, I can land there, but there would be these 2-minute times when you're down low and you know that if you have an engine failure. So I wanted one, and I enjoyed the filming.
Okay.
So I started building a second prototype right away. That first prototype, by the way, is in the EAA Air Museum in Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
That is
So
awesome.
That's really cool.
Yes, that is.
For us.
That is,
we
and
really,
that's at Air Venture. That
Yes.
is in the summer, and that absolutely
you can see it.
remarkable.
The museum where they have Air
Yep.
Venture there. So that's EAA headquarters. So we started building a second prototype.
Okay.
Built that, got it in the air, took it to some shows. It was very similar to the first AirCam, and
Did
found
you change anything?
not much.
Okay.
It was we made a few refinements, but it was very similar to the first
Okay.
one. And at that point, realized that there was interest in the airplane.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided to go ahead and kit it as a kit plane.
Yes.
And you know, it's one thing when you're going to build it yourself,
Okay.
and you can make parts fit, and you can. It's another thing if you're going to send it to a customer and say, okay, anybody can build one of these. And so that was quite a big job, getting the airplane from where it was a prototype to where it was a kit that could be easily replicated.
Right.
And we really designed several generations as we were doing the R&D and the testing.
Okay.
And so the generation that's sold now is almost like second, third generation from the original prototypes. And yeah, it took us about 4 years to do all the engineering. We had about 22,000 hours of engineering in that project. And then towards about 1990, the first AirCams the customers were building flew.
Yeah, it's fabulous. Now let me ask you, obviously I have to tell you this is my first year here at the Sports Expo. I'm usually at Sun and Fun, taking students to Oshkosh, to Air Venture. But how long have you been coming here? Obviously you're based here. So you've got a base here, a home base in Sebring. But how long have you been coming to the expo?
Well,
And what is your involvement?
I built my facility here in 1994.
Okay.
And so I'm based here, so I've been to every expo.
You've been, okay.
I was just talking with a friend and realizing that I went to Oshkosh working for that Max Air
Yes.
company with the Drifter in, it was 1983, it was the first year. And I've been to Oshkosh every year since.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's
And
really,
it's phenomenal.
it's a great show.
Yes, it
I
is.
would go even if
Absolutely.
I wasn't working.
Yes,
I would
yes.
want to be there. But I've
Yeah.
been fortunate that I've been working for somebody every year at that show, and
It's amazing.
yeah, always enjoy it.
Now, what is your next venture? What are you into now? Phil, what are you looking at now? Because I know you're like Steve, so I know there's got to be something on the horizon because you never sit still, and that was one thing that in reading about you, there's always something new. So what's next?
Well, I guess the big project that I'm working on right now is trying to build a home for the Seaplane Pilots Association.
Right. Okay.
Right. So.
Kind of going back
Yeah,
to where
I've
you
been.
started.
Yeah, well, I've been very involved with my local EAA chapter here.
Okay.
We.
And that's the Heartland chapter.
Yes,
Okay.
and when I got involved with that chapter, the guys were having their meetings either in the boardroom here or in a T hangar. And the airport was very nice. It's always been very proactive about accommodating any aviation activities that they could possibly help with. So, but we weren't going anywhere. I mean, not much was happening. It was just,
Okay.
it was just a not a really active EAA chapter.
Okay.
So, I proposed to the guys that I thought we should build a new home facility, and that I thought that would really help spark the chapter and get us going and make it a more active chapter. And everybody's like, yeah, that would be great. Let's do that. So we had to go out and raise the money, and so we went out and we raised some money. Fortunately, found some people that would help us. James Ray was one of them.
Yes.
And
I know Mr. Ray through the
yeah,
Central
he's
Florida
an
Aerospace
unbelievable
Academy.
guy.
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic.
He was a remarkable man.
Fantastic man. And we raised a couple $100,000.
Wow.
And then we, in our own labor and in light contributions from the community, we built what is probably a $400,000 or $500,000 facility. And our chapter has since more than quadrupled in membership. We are super active. We're doing all these scholarships for kids, aviation scholarships, youth scholarships. We have a youth aerospace program, which our current president, John Roush, runs.
He had Story Musgrave in.
Yes.
Dr. Musgrave was here, and the 22,000 parts, lots of activities going on for the youth.
Story actually bought an air cam and is having our youth group build it there. So our youth group's so so I saw what that facility did for EAA chapter, and I thought, Seaplane Pilots Association needs a home.
Yeah.
And so we've leased the property, got the facility designed, and now we're going about raising the money.
Now that's not here in Sebring.
That's going to be at
Winter Haven.
Winter Haven. Yeah.
Winter Haven. Okay.
Currently at Lakeland.
Right.
But there's
at
no water access there.
Right.
A great airport, but we want to be on the water. So we'll have a state-of-the-art seaplane base and facility adjacent to that base, so we can accommodate land planes and seaplanes, even straight float planes, and really say this is the way you want to build a seaplane base.
Yes.
This is it right here, and accommodate hopefully the splash-in.
I was going to say it would be a perfect home for that right now.
Yeah, and an annual industry event, a museum, which will accommodate all kinds of different small airplanes, seaplanes of significant historical value. Okay. And we want to have one of every float that's been produced in large quantities there, showing people what STCs are on it, what planes they've been mounted on, what their capacities are, so that someone has a place other than Alaska where you can go and see all these different floats in one place.
Well, I tell you what, Mr. Lockwood, it is such an honor to meet you, and I thank you for giving us your time today. And I know that you can go to the Seaplane Pilots Association. You can actually go to seaplanepilots.org, and then also it's the Seaplane Pilots Foundation.
That's right.
And that is because I know currently you're looking for sponsors and anyone that's willing to donate. We know that little drops fill a bucket, and certainly the future is aviation. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for sharing your love with our future and with the young people. Having 4 children myself, I can't thank you enough, and I love aviation. So I thank you for your time today and for talking with us. It's such an honor to have you. And folks, my name is Lori Bradner. I'm with the Florida Aviation Network. We are broadcasting live and in the clear from Sebring Regional Airport from the terminal building, and we're celebrating 14 years of the U.S. Sport Aviation Expo. Please do not miss it. I guarantee you will have a wonderful, wonderful time.